In this video, you'll see how to solve equations with variables on both sides. So let's just review our rules for solving equations. Remember, we want to find the value of the variable by getting it alone on one side of the equal sign. We're going to simplify each side of the equation if we can. And here's one piece where we're going to focus on today, step 2. Getting that variable term alone on one side of the equation by zeroing out the constant on that variable side. I will isolate the variable, which means making the coefficient 1 by dividing by the coefficient or multiplying by its reciprocal. And finally, we'll check our work. So let's look at a couple sample problems here. What do you notice that's different about this equation than the other equations we've solved recently? Right, notice there's a variable on both sides of the equal sign in this equation. Right, that's the only difference we see here. But let's see how we would solve an equation with variables on both sides. So let's just consider right now the left side of this equation. It's made up of two terms, a 3v and a positive 15. So I want to zero out the term 3v from the left side of the equal sign. So in order to do that, I'm going to use the additive inverse property. I'm going to subtract by 3v. I have to have that variable there so that we have like terms here. And these like terms will zero out, leaving me with 15 on the left side of the equal sign. But what I do to one side of the equal sign, I also must do to the other. So a positive 5v minus 3v, that's positive 2v. And then I can just bring down my constant of 1 there. Now once I go through that first step, you see that I have just a two-step equation here, which we know how to solve. I'm going to zero out my constant of 1 that's on the variable side. Subtract 1, and I get 14 equals 2v. I need to isolate my variable by dividing by the coefficient. 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 2v divided by 2 is just v. So that's my solution to the equation. In order to check my work, I just want to substitute in 7 for v. So 3 times 7 plus 15 should be equal to what I get when I do 1 plus 5 times 7. So let's go through this using the order of operations. 3 times 7 is 21, plus 15, 36. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 1, 36. These two sides are equal to each other, so I know I've solved this correctly. All right, and just notice here, I could have made a different move. I could have subtracted 5v on both sides of the equal sign as my first move. I like to make sure that my coefficient stays positive, and that's how I decide which variable term I'm going to eliminate. All right, let's take a look at the second example here. 1 plus 2x equals 11 plus 7x. In order to keep my variable term positive, I am going to subtract 2x on each side of the equation. So 1 plus 2x minus 2x just leaves me with 1 on the left side. 11 plus 7x minus 2x leaves me with 11 plus 5x. I have a two-step equation here. I'm going to zero out my constant on the variable side. 1 minus 11 is negative 10. 11 minus 11 zeroes out. And I'm left with negative 10 equals 5x. I want to divide 5 on both sides. And negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. And that's what is equal to x. In order to check my work, I'm just going to substitute that negative 2 into my equation here. And I am going to simplify each side. So 2 times negative 2, that's a negative 4. 1 minus negative 4 is negative 3. And then 7 times negative 2, negative 14. 11 plus a negative 14, also negative 3. These are equal to each other, so I've solved this correctly. X is equal to negative 2. All right, here are a couple samples for you to do on your own. All right, here are a couple problems for you to practice on your own. 5y minus 6 equals 10 plus 3y. I want to solve this for y. First, I'm going to eliminate a variable term on one side of the equal sign. I'm going to eliminate the 3y from the right side. That way, when I do 5y minus 3y, I get a positive coefficient. So 2y minus 6 is equal to 10. Now I just want to zero out my constant. And I get 2y equals 16. Divide by my coefficient. And I get y is equal to 8. In order to check this, I am just going to take my original equation, 5 times y is equal to 8, so I'm going to substitute 8, minus 6, that should be equal to 10 plus 3 times 8. 5 times 8 is 40, 40 minus 6, that's 34. 10 plus 3 times 8, which is 24, is also 34. These are equal, so my equation checks out. Alright, let's look at the last example here. I want to zero out my variable term on one of the sides of the equal sign, and I'm going to choose to subtract 10k here. That way, leaving a positive coefficient. 12k minus 10k is just 2k minus 36 equals 4. And now I just want to zero out my constant on the variable side. So I'll add 36. 4 plus 36 is 40, and that is equal to 2k. Divide by the coefficient, and we find that k equals 20. I want to check this, so I'm going to take my original equation and substitute 20 for k. Alright, 12 times 20, that is 240 minus 36 is 204. And then 10 times 20, that's 200 plus 4, that's 204. So these are equal to each other, so it checks out. And that's how we solve equations with variables on both sides.